Okay, week 3. We're back with Suzanne and the body we made. So we modelled this body, but modelling is only half the story. The other half of the story for making good mesh is the textures. To make good textures, we first have to do something called UV unwrapping. In fact, we've actually got a tab here for UV editing. Okay, so if we look at this, it's automatically jumped into edit mode. We can see a UV map that has been created from the initial cube. Okay, so let me just add a new collection, which is there. Sorry. Okay, let me hide this collection and let me go into object mode. So I'm just going to tab into object mode. Right, if I was to add a mesh cube here, why hasn't it added? Because I wasn't on the collection, so it added there. I must remove that later. Okay, so make sure your new collection is selected. Add a mesh cube, so Shift A, add a mesh cube. Okay, we edit this cube and we look at it, we've got this unwrap, and in fact, if we look back at our Suzanne unwrap, which was this, and we select this, edit it, it's extremely similar. In fact, it's the same because this was made from cube. Okay, well, let me delete this cube with the X key. And actually, let me set up some screencast keys so you can see what I'm doing. Let's change that color to green. Activate that. There we go. Alright. Screencast keys is an add-on. You won't have it in yours. I just use it so you can see what I'm doing in Blender. So collapse that panel with the N. Right. So, like I said, the half the story is texturing. So if we were to come across to texture paint tab here, okay, we can see we've got our unwrap here. What I want to do is add a new texture so we can kind of see how everything's going to look. Alright, so new texture is new. There we go. I'm just going to call it body. I'm going to leave it at 1024 pix. I'm going to remove the alpha because I don't want an alpha channel on the texture. You should never use an alpha channel unless you absolutely need it. But what we're interested in here is this generated type. Blender has some couple of default textures, UV grid and color grid, to help you when you're unwrapping. I'm going to use the color grid and press OK. And there we can see we've got this color grid map. Okay, so we've got, you know, the different colors and letters and numbers. Helps us easily identify on the model. And in fact, if I come across to the look dev shading, alright, what I'm going to need to do is add a new material to see this. Okay, so we're going to come down to the materials tab here and we'll add a new material. Alright, now to get this to show, we need to map this texture to the model. We need to tell Blender that we want to use this texture on this model, and we need to do that in the shading tab. So if we open the shading tab, we've got some nodes here. Alright, this principal shader I'm not a big fan of, but we'll go into that later. Right, so I need to add a texture node to this, to the base color, so we'll be able to see it. I can do that from the add menu, add texture, image texture. Okay, I can open the texture recreate, not open, sorry. I can use the drop down to find the body texture we just created, and I can press or join the color into the base color. Okay, so now we see that texture mapped on Suzanne. We can leave this now for the moment, and we can come back to UV editing. If I put this in, let's do it in texture paint. There we go. Alright. So if we look at this, what we can see is it's kind of mapped correctly in some places, but along the arms here, it hasn't. It stretches texture along. Okay, and we'll see the same on the legs there, and possibly on the neck, although that's not looking too bad. But one thing we can see is, you know, this has the writing going upwards, this has it going across upside down. It's all very kind of muddled. So if you were to use a pattern on this way, it's going to look absolutely awful. So we need to do something to correct this. Alright, let me come back into UV editing. Alright, if I wonder if I can just, no, I'll create a new blank texture in a minute. If I were to analyze this, let me actually create a new texture. One of these, and I'll just use it as blank, and I'll call it blank. And press OK. Alright, because this will be easier for us to see. Alright, so if we look, we've got the cube shape, but if we try and read this texture, we're not understanding what's going on. We can kind of guess that this here is the front because it's got the kind of chest area impregnated into it. This would be the legs, the two legs, this would be the neck, so this would be the side with the arm coming out. Okay, now let me zoom in here, and let me select one vertex here. If I grab that and move it, you'll see there's another vertex underneath. Okay, so we're not getting the projection of the texture we wanted. We need to rework this. So I'll just Control Z backwards, and we need to do that by working this model. Alright, so how do we do that? Well, we need to create seams. What we need to do is think about this like we were going to make it out of, say, paper, a paper model, where we would cut the bits and pieces ready to stick together. Okay, and that's what we're going to have a look at in the next video.